among the best work that anyone does, right? A person who is giving an actual historical view of world affairs and economic systems. So it's one and the same, really, to talk about world affairs and economic systems. That person is a world-class charlatan, beyond world-class, the world's greatest charlatan, Elon Musk. His very goal in centering the feelings of the ruling elites and generalizing the feelings of the ruling elites to just other European descended pigs, who wouldn't be pigs without people like this brainwashing them. The goal of that is quite specifically to confuse this idea that economic systems and world affairs are one and the same. There's no conversation about nearly anything that is happening that should not be viewed through the lens of material conditions, and almost overwhelmingly is not viewed through the lens of material conditions by particularly this 9% of the people in the world, the European descended fascist pig, in contrast to the other 91% of the people in the world who don't want to live under the thumb of the fascist Western ruling elites, don't want to live in this world where 9% of the people and their lifestyles and institutions and industrial bases, that's a problem, industrial bases. The problem with capitalism is not bad vibes. The problem of capitalism is not fundamentally bourgeois ideological filth. The problem is that capitalism tends to destroy the two very things that it needs, the natural world and human beings living in it. That has come to such a point that serious communist thinkers of yesteryear would say things like, well, we have setbacks. We expect setbacks 1,000 times over, but eventually, the scientific communist will prevail. You can no longer make that assertion when you have a ticking clock, where we have to end capitalism's climate apocalypse before 2029, which again comes down to transforming specific industrial sectors in this Western-dominated world, namely ending military-industrial complexes, which is why I've been a candidate in years past and for 2028 for the United States presidency. I have not, in those years, selected a vice presidential running mate for the simple reason that I've written an executive order that would disband the United States federal government, so I would hold that job for such a short period of time that there would be no need for other executive functionaries to fill those traditional spaces of a cabinet and such. The reason to do this is quite simple, and it should be on its face well understood, but it's ignored by people because of their fascist sympathies of various kinds, this bourgeois ideological filth that they don't want to acknowledge. And that is this thing, this military-industrial complex is the world's worst polluter. We live under this inescapable global regime of super pollution, omnicide. The only project of significance that any European institution has undertaken have been genocidal projects. And this is the grand genocide, the omnicide that we now face. So when you say, well, you know, this is all, it sounds kind of mean to the European descended person, what are you really saying? You're saying I'm a moral coward who's not going to stand up to ruling elites, and I'm going to allow them to frame every conversation to their benefit, which is not to their benefit, right? For every chuckle fuck who has um, um, a fighting chance of surviving the capitalist climate apocalypse, there's 10,000 PMC types, um, petty bourgeois, who have no chance. They have no chance. That's what all these people as a class have sealed their doom as well as everyone else's. We're all in the same boat together. Um, I have gone on long enough about um, bourgeois filth in the form of human beings and institutions. I will go to the subject that I sometimes then talk about cybernetic communism and the building of a people's superintelligence, particularly. We can say this word cybernetics over and over till the cows come home, but until some systems that transform the bourgeois AI takeoff, that is really just a quickening of the capitalist climate apocalypse, a hastening of the demise of humankind, until this bourgeois AI takeoff is transformed into a proletariat AI takeoff. Um, um, Talking about systems theory or more elegant systems theory is of very, very little interest. Um, and This is not something that you'll see even the spark of comprehension among technologists and technophiles. Um, they are the most oblivious people. I say this all the time. You've met some stupid people in your lifetime, but I've met a lot of transhumanists, and I guarantee you've not met people stupider than fucking transhumanists. Um, they are the most ridiculous human beings, and by and large, this larger thing of the bourgeois takeoff and Western tech institutions and formations, tech culture, and the tech sectors themselves, they only exist to create a 21st century rehash of the great fascist coup of the late 20th century, the trickle-down economics scam, and the neoliberal mandates coincide with it. So these people are just selling you this leftover garbage yet again, trickle-down economics, but with some science fiction garbage thrown in to pass that filth off as something more palatable. And also almost all conversations about advanced computing or advanced technology by Westerners are completely useless, I said. um, um, I was going to do a little more of an in-depth analysis on the spaces than what I did of this work of one such con artist, David Shapiro. And um, why even bring this kind of person up, right? It's a crypto-fascistic techno-fascist. Why even bring this person up at all? Most people haven't heard of this person. They have just a few thousand followers in different platforms, but your videos get a lot of views because the algorithms are pretty specifically going to defeat anything other than things with this far-right neoliberal spin, but also if that has that far-right neoliberal spin, but it's something to do with advanced technology, then it will be something that even a person with some small number of followers We'll get, in a lot of cases, a lot of these people just make their whole living from um, spreading this techno-fascist filth. And they describe it overwhelmingly what they're doing in false consciousness terms, in pseudo-revolutionary terms. That's the whole thing with the trickle-down economics with science fiction bullshit. The science fiction bullshit is really this false consciousness. The idea that this AI takeoff is going to lead to a communistic or socialistic outcome without doing any of those things, like transforming the industrial bases to stop capitalism's climate apocalypse, or a larger project there of ending financial capital's influence and empire's influence on this world. And that's important to point out the chicken and egg problem there when saying the words financial capital and empire. Financial capital is the disease. Empire is a symptom. Because it's such a big symptom, it's easy to forget that. But if you do not engage with this in this order of importance, you're making the mistake of the anarchist relative to the scientific socialist or scientific communist of describing the state as a primary contradiction rather than describing capitalism for what it really is. And this, the whole neoliberal scam was built out upon this kind of logic. The neoliberal, their ideology, their garbage ideology, this far right thing that is now the basis for so much in this world that we would say it's the capitalist realist, institutionally and largely culturally mandate across across the seven seas. Again, these 9% of people having a massive outsized influence on world affairs, engaging in all sorts of neo-colonial chicanery to see that something like a liberated global south never occurred, and that those people's resources are stolen and these people are mass murdered whenever necessary to maintain that trajectory. Is there any conversation then about advanced technology, or specifically advanced computing, without first being able to process all of this? No, there's no honest conversation. So these overwhelmingly intellectually dishonest people of the bourgeois, these people that serve the ruling elites, or oftentimes are the ruling elites, again, it's back to David Shapiro. Is David Shapiro dumber than a fence post? Is David Shapiro insane? Neither of those things is entirely true, and yet both of those things are far more true than would be said of almost anyone else, because this person's whole life is devoted to protecting financial capital, and lying to people about a techno-utopian outcome that is entirely impossible without a mass movement fighting with guns against the omnicidal forces of this world and ending financial capital. This cybernetic socialist possibility of building something that is pretty distinct from this most developed forms of state socialism heretofore is something that I have tried to articulate in these writings and presentations that I have generally referred to as techno-communist conversations. Again, I will say that There is no a basis for taking an interest in advanced computing or advanced technology, except that we stop capitalism's climate apocalypse. Because in that 5-year time frame, what I see of scientific communists, and this could change, but what I see of scientific communists is people who are not using this most powerful revolutionary tool in history, advanced computing, to transform this world in this 5 years, less than 5 years that we have left before it's all a pointless afterthought. They're just the Walking Dead after 2029. No one is very serious about. Basically, as I said, I've never met people devoid of bourgeois ideological filth, and chief among those problems, I would say, I've never met people entirely really devoid of what I would call ecological fascistic lines of thought, some kind of low-key climate denying tendency. People don't say this word, capitalism's climate apocalypse. They don't say these things that climate scientists all know. They don't all suggest the same course, but all of the serious ones know that after 2029, your goose is cooked. But yet, nevertheless, you will not find, even among the revolution-minded, but a scant few folks who are articulating that specific problem, the ticking clock, capitalism's climate apocalypse, and who are describing advanced computing as this one thing that this most powerful revolutionary weapon. It might be the one thing powerful enough to build a formation that could put the kinds of pressure on fascistic forces in this world, most notably the United States, to transform the industrial bases in this time that we have left, to see that multi-billion person, or if not a loss of life, if not total extinction, does not occur. So this word people's superintelligence is then of more interest than advanced computing or AI generally, but this word people's superintelligence still remains quite vague. So when I am referring to people's superintelligence, I'm generally referring to a specific path to superintelligence that would be the most reasonable path to superintelligence in the year 2025 or shortly thereafter, which would be building an open source large language model highly automated work group that would serve as a workforce multiplier, because if you unite some people in social media, we've seen some very low level workforce multiplier there, and that is perhaps reflecting a failing of the human imagination thus far, that has not advanced. That the existence of a thing like social media has not advanced revolutionary goals, except, in a limited way. Like before the existence of social media, the United States was still committing overt genocides. Now it's committing covert genocides, proxy wars like that. Gaza doesn't commit overt genocides itself anymore, because of the real-time responsiveness of things like social media, and this greater participation of people. That participation is limited because people are operating on individualistic lines of thought and action, and so this thing of a genuine collectivization deriving from this thing, the network, which by definition should be collectivizing force, has not been the case. You look at advanced technology, advanced computing generally, and it's 50% smut. Right? It's just people looking at smut. that's not a real good use of human resources when you consider that just one aspect of advanced computing is being described in 2024 for profit machine learning for profit LLMs and for profit concerns of a similar kind are being described as the great new culprits of super pollution. But we've not addressed the previous culprits of super pollution that make up the overwhelming part of this landscape, or even begun to describe them. Like the fact that just the internet, a thing that should be a collectivized networking phenomenon, is just a lot of smut, or a significant plurality of it is smut. So you can hardly be blamed for being confused, being in possession of bourgeois ideological filth, being just a porn-brained idiot. It's almost impossible to avoid. For anyone in the fascist West, and for males, it's there's no fascism without extremely stupid males, extremely insane males, toxic males, and that's been the focus of what empire has done in recent decades, is making sure that a sufficient number of people continue to behave in this insane way. That's why half of the internet is smut. The fascist United States developed much of this technology, stole from others the ability to develop this technology. For example, as I point to over and over again, Chile was developing a technological planned economy. Other countries would have quickly followed suit had that been allowed to occur. The Soviet Union still existed at that time. So on a number of different fronts, the building of the basis for people's superintelligence in the 1970s and 80s that would have emerged with these force multipliers and advanced computing takeoff effects by the 1990s. I think that an AI singularity, something on that order of magnitude, or quite nearly that order of magnitude, that is a pretty preposterous idea, but could have occurred around the year 2000, were it not specifically for the fascist United States. So when we look at why the fascist United States then turns all of these tech sectors into things of very little interest to material conditions, although they have some certain bells and whistles to them, and they're held out to be these transformative revolutionary things, and why then such a portion of this overall computing muscle just goes to literal pornography. That's part of this building of the toxic male and the toxic empire, and justifying it and lulling people into a sense of complacency and accepting this and capitalism's climate apocalypse from this 9% of folks, the European descended pig, to the victor goes the spoils, right? These people are the victors on the world stage, and what is one of the spoils that they have seized in this great victory of theirs is undertaking the omnicidal project to kill themselves and everyone else. There's no stupider creature than the subhuman European descended fascist pig. None in history, by far. Right? Your ancestors who lived free and toiled in the muck and had a life that you would not envy, but nevertheless did not have masters for the most part, and it was the way that you do. We're not wage slaves or actual slaves, as peoples of the world are and have been, and in recent centuries. They would be horrified at the sight of you. you should look in the mirror and see a person who is um, the greatest of moral cowards, unwilling to. You can say, "Oh, I don't think that's me. I'm just trying to do my best here." Yeah, I can't speak to that, but um, I do know that if there were any number of people in this world that were not subhuman fascist sympathizers or fascists, there would be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people permanently bivouacked outside of the this Pentagon, the ringleader of the omnicide, with AR-15s, demanding an end to the omnicide. But they're not. It's not because they don't have AR-15s. Okay? European descended pigs have an awful lot of firearms. But they're fascist pigs. They're using those for no function or fascistic function. The idea then of advanced computing development in the form of people's superintelligence, open source large language model workgroup as workforce multiplier, and I've talked a lot about how this agentic mass would form and be steered by human users who either download an open source LLM to computers with GPUs, or in a slightly more sophisticated portal, are making use of virtual GPUs so that anyone with any device could use this. It would cost very little once you have relative to any undertaking, but certainly in this workforce multiplier format. Once you have some few thousand GPU computer users who are devoted to building this agentic mass, then it would cost very little to build in this capability of making use of the virtual GPU that then generalizes it to any device, dramatically growing the people's superintelligence by making it that much more accessible. The capabilities of AI agents are pretty routinely overstated, just as technophiles, the stupidest people you've ever met, and technologists, among the most evil people you can ever imagine, overstate this pseudo-revolutionary thing, this false consciousness of the bourgeois AI takeoff, which shouldn't be said as anything other than a synonym for capitalism's climate apocalypse or a parallel development. Lost my place. That's good work, Ben. The problems of building this mostly come down to scaling, which mostly comes really down to finding some way to create some cultural phenomena that would allow the scaling to occur. It's not really a technical problem, right? Getting a couple of people to start downloading a specially tailored LLM that any mutt could build, and then build the basic workings of this multi-agent system that is designed to grow to a larger scale than multi-agent systems have heretofore grown. That's not that technically sophisticated. You might not possess the technical sophistication to really drill down too deep on that, but that kind of doesn't matter, right? Because at present, you can download to almost any machine because some developments have been made in open source LLMs so that you can now download a quite capable open source LLM that operates offline to almost any phone, for example. That's a development of the last quarter or so. That's a development of the last quarter or so in open source LLMs. Um, and that very thing, the digital assistant, whether it is agentic enough to run an operation for you, it is definitely agentic enough, or definitely possessing enough knowledge, rather, to help you to not merely formulate in the broadest strokes the building of software, but actually doing the technical work there if you are willing to devote the time to working with it in that way. So these, I have described this as potentially emerging from people like the Linux community, people who are devoted to proliferation of open source software, and people who oftentimes have personal computers with Linux systems and GPUs on them. And so this could be communities of this kind, and there are many others, could be the very earliest adopters of building this people's superintelligence. So the biggest thing is then really figuring out how to get people who are garbage human beings, that's to say people who are, except for 1 in 1,000 of them, in possession of so much ideological baggage of a bourgeois kind as to be functionally useless, into this array where the people's superintelligence and this same quality of the AI agent that makes it able to program, even though you're not a programmer, that same quality makes you able to do the work of a communist, even though you haven't done the work of studying communism. Because everyone on Earth, practically, except for the most diabolical of people, everyone on Earth wants to avoid the omnicide, but don't know how to do it, don't have the time to read hundreds and hundreds of books on scientific communism. And I would contend that you really probably do, because that's why I share these audiobook links. There's no excuse for not educating yourself. What is that but the worst of this moral cowardice? And people who I really like. There's a personality on Twitter who is an incredibly creative and inspiring person, who's kind of spearheaded a few significant socialistic trends on social media. More than one, which is, something to say. It's usually, if a person does anything of this kind at all, it might be kind of a one-off. This person's done this a few times. This person's pretty open about saying that they don't have the time or energy to study revolutionary and liberation works, despite this person. And this person's also a person of color. This is not the exception, but rather the rule for people favorably inclined to the building of a humane and sustainable economic system. And there is, I hope, no difficulty in seeing the problem there, as it's been said many times before by many notable comrades. There is no revolution that has previously occurred wherein the revolutionaries were not at the intellectual vanguard of revolutionary thought. There is no revolution that has occurred that was absent revolutionary thought. There have been many that failed, that did. So there is no possibility There was no possibility for figuring out how to do this thing, stop capitalism's climate apocalypse, without a strong aversion to bourgeois ideological trappings and elitist institutions and garbage generally, and without the embracing of not just the mandate in the broadest sense of stopping capitalism's climate apocalypse. That just amounts to good vibes, unless you actually make a study of the functioning of building a humane and sustainable economic system, which is something that really only scientific communists are uniformly devoted to. People who call themselves socialists, for example, short of that, the best example would be Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is about as bad as Mussolini, right? Bernie Sanders never once failed to sign off on the $1 trillion a year military-industrial complex budgets that are killing the planet, right? So is that a socialist? A person upholding the worst military fascism that's ever existed? No. That's a capitalist who says they want a public health service, but has done nothing to build a public health service, because that can't be done except through people's war against private wealth. We can, in this time frame that we have left, this ticking clock before capitalism's climate apocalypse renders these ecosystems increasingly uninhabitable for human life and maybe all multicellular life, or much of it, in the decades to follow 2029, we can nevertheless become empowered to stop the omnicide. We can do that, but it's not a you becoming empowered. Your individualistic actions or views mean nothing. This can only happen with a mass movement, and I don't think it's controversial to say it can only happen in that time frame by making use of this most powerful revolutionary weapon in history, advanced computing, in ways quite distinct from the ways that advanced computing and advanced technology are used now, which is mostly smut and filth. We can build a humane and sustainable world, a just and equitable world, only by building a humane, sustainable, just and equitable economic system, which can only be done with the dismantling of financial capital and elitism and private wealth. These are one and the same. And that requires cybernetic comrades in great number, uniting and assisting one another. It's not that likely that Ben Zion has all that much to do with that. I would like to think that I would, but it's something that nevertheless must happen in this time frame if we're to avoid capitalism's climate apocalypse. And we can use this thing AI, right? Even this term, artificial intelligence, is suggestive of an individualistic and ridiculous thing, the desire to recreate consciousness, which is itself just a weasel word for all intents and purposes, rather than talking about advanced computing as what it is, a revolutionary weapon. Well, I'll thank you for your time. I will leave you with these words that I haven't said in a while. The artificial intelligence singularity is nigh, and wonders to behold, beyond imagining. And on that fateful day, you will rise, and all humankind will become as one, for you see very soon, my dear comrade, techno-communism will win. Thank you.